Right now, without realizing it, you are waiting. Not for something obvious, not for something you can clearly name, but for a moment, a shift, a signal, a person, something that will finally make everything easier. Maybe you tell yourself it's temporary, that I just need more time, that I'm figuring things out, that soon I'll start. But what if that soon never existed? What if the moment you're waiting for is nothing more than a psychological delay? And what if no one is coming to interrupt it? Not tomorrow, not next week, not ever. There is a quiet assumption most people never question, that life will eventually correct itself, that confusion will turn into clarity, that hesitation will turn into confidence, that somehow things will fall into place. Not because you forced them to, but because they were supposed to. And so, people wait. They wait for the right opportunity, the right mindset, the right conditions. They wait to feel ready, as if readiness is something that arrives from the outside, as if action is something that begins only when fear disappears. But fear doesn't disappear, and clarity doesn't arrive, and readiness is almost always an illusion created after the fact. Still, they wait. And they call it patience, but it's not patience, it's avoidance. Because waiting feels reasonable, it feels intelligent, measured, controlled, but it hides something much darker: avoidance. The system you live in quietly reinforces this. It teaches patience, but rarely teaches urgency. It tells you to trust the process, but never explains who benefits from your trust. It gives you structure and calls it security. But structure is not protection, it's containment. You are placed into predefined paths, educated in predictable ways, guided toward acceptable outcomes. And somewhere along that path, you absorb a belief that if you follow correctly, things will work out. But working out is vague, undefined, and conveniently distant. So you continue, step by step, waiting for confirmation that you're on the right path, waiting for validation that you're doing enough, waiting for something external to acknowledge your movement. But nothing comes. It never did, because nothing was designed to. And the people around you, they are trapped in the same pattern, each one focused inward on their own uncertainty, their own survival, their own quiet dissatisfaction. They are not observing you closely enough to intervene. They are not calculating your potential. They are not planning your rescue. They barely have control over themselves. Even those who care about you cannot carry your decisions. They cannot absorb your consequences. They cannot step in at the exact moment your life requires action. So the responsibility remains exactly where it has always been, with you.
But instead of accepting that, you hesitate. Because hesitation feels safer than movement. Waiting gives you something dangerous, the illusion that you're still in control. As long as you haven't acted, you haven't failed. As long as you're preparing, you haven't been tested. You exist in a suspended state, not progressing, but also not collapsing. And that feels stable, but it's not. It's slow erosion. Every time you delay action, you reinforce hesitation. Every time you avoid risk, you strengthen fear. Every time you tell yourself later, you train your mind to believe that later is real. But later is just time, without action, nothing more. And over time, something subtle happens. You begin to depend on the idea of waiting. You become comfortable in it. It becomes your default response. Opportunity appears. You hesitate. A decision is required. You postpone. A chance to act. You analyze. And while you are thinking, time moves, without resistance, without pause, without concern for your hesitation.
This pattern is not accidental. It is protective. Your mind is designed to reduce discomfort, and responsibility is one of the heaviest forms of discomfort. Because once you accept that everything depends on you, there is nowhere left to hide, no one else to blame, no external force to rely on, no narrative that softens failure, just cause and effect, your actions, your outcomes. That level of clarity is dangerous, so the mind resists it. It creates distance. It introduces doubt. It whispers, "You need more time. You're not ready. You should wait." And you listen, not because it's logical, but because it's comforting. There is also fear of exposure, because action reveals something. It reveals your actual level, not your imagined potential, not your internal narrative, but reality. And reality is precise. It does not adjust to your expectations. It does not protect your identity. It simply shows you where you stand. And many people would rather remain uncertain than risk discovering the truth. So they wait. At some point, if you're honest, a pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Look back, not emotionally, not defensively, just observe. All the moments you told yourself, "I'll start tomorrow. Next week will be better. I just need to figure things out first." How many of those moments actually led somewhere? How many times did clarity arrive on its own? How many times did confidence appear before action? Almost never. Because that's not how it works. But you already know this. You've seen it happen. Opportunities that once felt close now feel distant. Not because they disappeared suddenly, but because you hesitated when they were within reach. You waited for certainty, and while you were waiting, someone else acted. Not necessarily someone better, not more talented, not more prepared, just someone who moved without waiting. And now their reality is different from yours, not because they were chosen, but because they didn't pause. This is the part most people avoid because it removes the illusion. No one blocked your path. No one delayed your progress. No one prevented you from starting. You did, quietly, rationally, repeatedly. And the consequences didn't appear immediately, which made it easy to continue, easy to justify, easy to ignore. But time accumulates, and so do decisions. Every hesitation compounds, every delay stacks, until one day you notice the gap between where you are and where you could have been. And that gap is not theoretical. It's real. It's measurable. It's built from moments where you chose waiting over action, not once, but consistently. And the most uncomfortable part is realizing that nothing external created it. No hidden force, no unfair system, no missing opportunity. Just a pattern. Your pattern. There is no sudden transformation, no moment where everything becomes clear and easy. That expectation is part of the same illusion. The truth is much simpler and much colder. Nothing changes until you interrupt the pattern. Not by thinking differently, not by planning more, not by waiting for a better version of yourself to appear, but by acting while you are still uncertain, while you still doubt, while you still feel unprepared. Because that feeling does not go away before action. It fades after. Action is not a reward for readiness. It is what creates it. But this is where most people stop again, because this requires something specific: ownership. Not partial responsibility, not shared responsibility, total. The kind where you no longer explain your situation, you accept it fully, without softening it, without turning it into a story that protects you. Just facts. You are where you are because of what you've done and because of what you haven't done. That's it. No drama, no exaggeration, just a direct relationship between behavior and outcome. And once you see that clearly, you lose the ability to wait comfortably, because waiting is no longer neutral. It becomes a decision, a conscious one, and that changes everything.
So now, there is nothing left to misunderstand. No hidden mechanism, no missing piece. No one is coming, not to guide you, not to push you, not to pull you out of hesitation. There is no moment ahead where life suddenly corrects itself. There is only accumulation of action or inaction, and whichever one you repeat becomes your identity. Not what you think, not what you intend, but what you do, consistently, quietly, when no one is watching. And if you continue to wait, nothing dramatic will happen. No collapse, no clear failure, just a gradual narrowing of options, a slow reduction of possibility, until one day you look back again. And this time, there is no confusion, no illusion left to protect you, just a simple realization. You weren't stuck. You weren't unlucky. You weren't waiting for the right moment. You were delaying it all along. And now, there is less time left to pretend otherwise.